So a fire could start on one end and travel all the way around the floor.
Now, we have to talk about controlled demolition, because this is, after all, the reason for these conspiracy theories. If no one blew up the building, then what are we talking about? Wouldn't the fire department, having watched a building come down, inquire if it might have been blown up? I mean, wouldn't they look for some evidence of a...
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it again defies belief that people will accuse the fire department of neglecting to check for explosives.
Also, if you use explosives, there's characteristic tears in the steel. You can tell right away if explosives have been used, you know.
I'm glad you raised this point. When you say you can tell right away, in other words, experienced firefighters aren't scratching their heads saying, gee, I wonder if this could have been a demolition. I mean, they're looking for something specific, and they're not finding it at World Trade Center 7.
Well, and the other things that anyone can tell that didn't happen were a huge detonation, which you have to have in an explosion. I've got a video online called WTC Not a Demolition that compares actual demolitions and what they sound and look like to what the World Trade Center buildings sounded and looked like. In none of the buildings was there anything remotely like these enormous charges, even from a small amount of demolition charges. And in these buildings, you need a fairly substantial amount, because these are very heavy columns.
47-story building, yeah.
Even if you only wanted to take a few columns out, they're huge columns, and you don't have a chance to prepare them ahead of time like a demolitions team would. Enormous blasts, unmistakable, louder, much louder than the collapses would be. Windows would be blown out. The smoke that's coming out of these open windows would be pushed out. You'd see that ejected. None of that happened.
Well, they keep talking about the squibs now.
That's an issue that even Richard Gage, as bad as he is of architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, as completely incompetent as he is, has actually dropped. He said that people were saying that at the very top of the building, in some of the videos, you can see some ejections of dust that come out. Well, that was open. It had been hit by debris. It was open to the air. Smoke was pouring out. And why would you put demolition charges at the very top of the building anyway? It makes no sense at all.
The fact that they were going upward means to me that the floors were pulling out in that corner.
Oh, sure.
From the bottom up.
Yeah. So even he has dropped that claim. So hopefully we won't hear much more about that.
Can you think of some particularly egregious examples of members of the Truth Movement distorting the words of firefighters on the scene?
Oh, sure. Richard Gage, again, on his website, it says that one of the signs of controlled demolition is foreknowledge. Well, of course, if you're going to blow up a building, people have to know about that. But they're applying that to the World Trade Center buildings and to Building 7. So his idea is that since the fire department says that they felt the building was going to come down, that's a sign of controlled demolition, completely ignoring the fact that many people there actually took a look at the building, were inside the building, outside the building. It was groaning, it's creaking, it's got these enormous uncontrollable fires in it, and made that determination. And to him, oh no, that's actually a sign of controlled demolition.
Yeah, in other words, a professional judgment.
You can't possibly twist someone's observation, determination, and words more than that. You can't be more wrong than that. And it's unbelievably reprehensible that someone, and a professional too, in the building trades, would do that. Unbelievable.
Now would be a good time to point out that, you know, here we are talking among ourselves. We did invite representatives of the Truth Movement. Nobody wants to face a real retired battalion chief. Nobody wants to face Mark Roberts. We would like to have an opponent for these gentlemen, but we couldn't find one.
There are a few people who would do it, some of the no-planers and things like that, but they don't have a constituency as far as I can see. Yeah. They're very vocal, but I have a policy of not engaging with them.
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate for someone who's trying to sell a book or a DVD to have the good taste to defend his position in an open debate.
They seem to think that these questions that we ask are too hard of them.
Well, or unfair.
If they're unfair. If they're claiming, if they're going to make these incredible claims, they ought to have something to back it up with. And I don't think that we ask anything that's unreasonable.
Arthur, as a retired firefighter, have you had any personal dealings with people from the Truth Movement, people who...
No, except on the internet.
Yeah.
I read some of them, but...
But do you get accused
Oh yeah,
of complicity?
I went to one of Gage's lectures,
Uh,
and it was practically everything he said was questionable. You know, it was like I had my hand up the entire time, and he didn't want to even look at me. You know?
Yeah, it seems funny though that here you are promoting a great truth that you claim is being suppressed, and you don't take the opportunity to advance your cause.
I think the big problem is that they don't have any hypothesis that they're trying to advance. It's just anomalies here that they perceive here and there. And when we ask them, how does this fit in, like we would, how does this Building 7 fit in to any conspiracy theory that you have?
That's the problem. There's simply no
they can't
way
do
to
it.
fit this square peg into a round hole.
Yeah.
I mean, where does Larry Silverstein suddenly enter the picture? Here he is barging in, this impossibly vast conspiracy. He's trying to conquer the world for Halliburton, and now Larry Silverstein is running an insurance scam.
And the fire department's in on it with him.
Somehow the fire department's in on this. It's I don't know, Arthur. Did you know any of the heroes who lost their lives? Did you?
Oh yeah, sure.
So this is rather a personal discussion as far as you're concerned.
Yeah,
this is
right.
not something that you can make light of.
Yeah, exactly.
But also in fighting for building safety. Skyscrapers need to be safer. And Arthur's book
That's
points that out.
my main point of the book is to upgrade the codes.
You're looking forward to the
Because
next
we had good codes in 1938. In 78, they changed the codes. They lowered all the standards. All the 4-hour wall became a 3-hour wall.
Why was that done?
Well, the real estate industry somehow got control of the codes and changed them. It's very easy. You go to the powers that be in the city and look, we'd like to change this. Here's some money.
They want more rentable office space.
So World Trade Center 7 is going to be rebuilt. It's going to be...
Well, has been rebuilt.
Yeah, I mean, is it going to be safer?
It ought to be. It's got a concrete core.
Yeah, it is.
It doesn't have this wallboard core.
Christopher will be delighted.
Exactly. And much better fireproofing, much better life and safety systems, wider stairwells for people to get out and firefighters to get in. All of the firefighting systems inside are protected inside that concrete core.
But still, the Port Authority is not required to follow the codes. I mean,
they
did it on their own.
They agree to, yeah, but they're not required to.
But
they're not required to.
not.
So it'll be interesting.
The code is simply a guideline then. It's not has no binding
for the
force.
Port Authority, which is a really sort of strange organization, what they're allowed to do and what they're not. Now, the new buildings that are going to be there are going to have a lot of these same life safety systems and all, but again, they're not required, still not required to abide by the codes. They've agreed to, but they're not required to.
Well, again, we've come to the end of another Hardifire discussion. I thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to thank my two guests, Arthur Scheuerman,
Thank you.
Mark Roberts. It's been a pleasure having both of you gentlemen. We look forward to seeing you again on another edition of Hardifire. Thank you. I'm Ronald Wick. Good night.
Hardifire is funded in part by the Libertarian Party of New York. www.ny.lp.org